It's the left versus the right. In the right corner, it's James Flippin. In the left corner, it's Anthony Weiner. Live from Studio 77, it's a 77 WABC debate.
So welcome to another episode of Left versus Right. Anthony Weiner on your left, James Flippin on your right. It's the holiday season. I want to welcome you back. We've gotten great feedback about our show. So we have an idea for this program. Let's see if you think it works. It's Saturday, so a lot of people have a lot of leftover turkey in their fridge. And we have a lot of things from the year that are kind of leftover turkeys. Well, at least that's what one of us believes. Why don't you flesh it out a little bit for us?
All right, yeah. So in other words, one person's turkey is another person's something really great.
To be thankful for.
Exactly. So we've got some things we're grateful for, some things we appreciate, some things that kind of irk us or annoy us, and whatever it may be. The bad stuff in this case is the turkeys, even if you like leftover turkey. For this context, it's a little stale.
Well, and just to give you an insight, here on Left versus Right, how can one person's turkey be another person's gratitude? Well, you're about to find out. Let's go to the first issue. We touched on it a little bit. So the Donald Trump has made this DOGE committee, the Department of Governmental
Efficiency,
correct. Yeah. With Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy. And they want to get rid of whatever parts of government they can. They want to get rid of regulations. Now, I am grateful for regulations, and you think they're turkeys. What is your problem? What is your party's problem with government regulations?
I think that most of the time the perspective from the right, Anthony, is that the government doesn't really know what it's doing. So 99 times out of 100, the government's going to say, do this, and the market or the people that actually know that industry or know that specialty are going to say, that's not the right way to do it. And then you have this loggerheads between the people who make the rules and the people who actually do it. So regulations, I think you're making a good point in the sense that you want some regulations. You don't want people to be able to build buildings without having safety things in place and a proper foundation, a proper fire code, all that kind of stuff. But a lot of the time, the rules are what get in the way of efficiency.
Yeah, but I want to tell you something. Regulations put us on the air. If we didn't have regulations how the public airwaves get used, we wouldn't have a company like this that was built by John and Margo Katsomatidis. If it weren't for regulations, Elon Musk would have no regulations around cars and roads and how driverless cars have to work. If we didn't have regulations, Vivek Ramaswamy wouldn't have an FDA to protect us against drugs that aren't safe. If we didn't have regulations, we'd have trains going off the track and no one's accountable for it. I think this idea, regulations are another way of saying rules. And while a lot of people don't like rules, what you learn as a parent and what you learn as an economy is rules are what make an economy go. Imagine if we didn't have them. Imagine if Vivek Ramaswamy and Musk were like, let's get rid of all these troublesome regulations. Let me get my drugs approved more quickly. And then it turns out that there's something wrong with them. I am grateful for regulations because usually they protect me from harm from people who just want to make a quick buck.
Now, that's true. As I always say when I report on things, I'll say this bill aims to do something. This package aims to provide this. That's the effort underway from government. But you know what, Anthony? You're a dad. You know what it is to try to raise children. You want the rules to be simple, concise, something that you can understand, something that's not unwieldy or, in some ways going to get in the way of the proper process. So I think that the difference is people that are more of the right say sometimes these things are redundant, too restrictive. They put the wrong onus on the wrong things and all that kind of, you could debate that till you're blue in the face. That being said, the people that are in that industry, providing those things, actually creating things and thinking through creatively, they say a lot of the times these rules are a little bit too much.
I know that's what they say, but I want to tell you something. You say it should be simple. It should be, no, it should be whatever it takes. Sometimes we have experts who tell us, you know what? Here are the rules around having a lithium ion battery in the backseat of your car. That's the size of a suitcase. Okay. Here are the very detailed rules. I would not know how to measure a safe lithium ion battery if you put a gun to my head. But we have rule makers who go out there and say we do it for the interest of the American people. The one thing that troubles me about you guys on the right, you have such contempt for people who basically have made their career of trying to protect us. And you know what? Very often, and you used the example of the building codes. I bet you there are a lot of building codes that a lot of builders could save a lot of money if they didn't follow. Who benefits from that? Maybe the builder, but you know who else probably doesn't like that? Anyone living in those homes. And we live in an amazing, Barack Obama got in trouble for saying this when he ran against Mitt Romney. The idea Mitt Romney didn't make all this money because we, the people, kind of built this beautiful economy that he functioned in. That's kind of true. You can have all the amazing car companies in the world if you don't have rules around what these cars should be safe. And you know who always advocates for more regulations? Car companies. Because they know they don't want fly-by-night car companies coming in and competing with them on safety and things like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I know how much you government types love to say, we got to get the experts in here. We got to spend the money to get the experts in here. Maybe we'll have a big government hearing where they come in and testify and share their insights. And then we have another follow-up hearing and we pay the consultants even more to come in and talk about this kind of stuff. That's the kind of dog and pony show that sometimes comes along with this stuff. Now, look, of course you do need rules, you need guidelines, you always got to play by those. I think the Doge idea is trying to look at places where, like I said, the word redundant, overbearing, cumbersome, not all rules are good rules just because the rules.
Well, some of them you might think are turkeys, but I'm grateful for them. All right, another absolute turkey is the Electoral College. Let's just get rid of it. We now know that when people say your vote counts, it's not really true. Your vote doesn't really count here in New York. It doesn't really count in California. It doesn't count a lot of places. We were all staring at those same 6 or 7 states. $1 billion of advertising, well, it mostly happened in those 6 or 7 states. The candidates campaign mostly in those 6 or 7 states. It's time to get rid of it. And we finally have a circumstance where the Electoral College and the popular vote went to Donald Trump. He won by like 50 votes, but he did win the popular vote.
Your side's focused on talking about how big that win in the Electoral College is.
Not for nothing. Donald Trump's the one who keeps calling it a mandate or whatnot. But putting that aside, we've argued about that before. Let's finally put this turkey to rest. Let's both shake hands and say, you know what? Let's make every vote count in this country. Whoever gets the most votes wins the presidency. The Electoral College was created at a time where maybe it made sense to some kind of a compromise. In today's world, let's have these candidates visit all corners of the United States and get rid of the Electoral College. The idea that we are putting someone that we did not vote for the president the other day. We voted for Electoral College delegates to the Electoral College who are going to then go cast their vote for Harris or Trump. It's pretty outrageous. Well, I think we're adults. Let's get rid of this turkey once and for all.
Well, it's an interesting perspective because I think that it's one that's commonly held amongst people of the left or more Democrat-leaning. And you heard it a lot more often when the candidate that they didn't prefer lost the popular vote. You, to your credit, are saying, okay, Trump won both, but you still don't like it. I think the key here, Anthony, is that we don't have a strict top-to-bottom democracy, right? Like, this is a federalist system where the states matter, or at least they should, and their individual voices, desires, wants, the things they need to accomplish or hope to accomplish from government all matter. So that means that a place like Montana or Idaho or Iowa or whatever it may be could very well have different desires, interests, goals from a chief executive than a place like New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago would.
And so they get to vote.
They get to vote. So, but your point is that you think that each person should be counting equally in terms of, you say, one vote equals one vote.
Correct. I'm not saying get rid of the United States Senate. I'm saying let's elect presidents directly.
Right. But my point is that that actually diminishes the voice of people that don't live in population centers. Because let's say you're in a more rural setting or a place that has a pipeline coming through or could have a pipeline coming through, fracking, things like that. That's not typically the chief concern of somebody living in a city center, right?
What rural center has been a swing vote except rural parts of Pennsylvania, rural parts of North Carolina, rural parts of Wisconsin? What about the rural parts of Montana? Don't they? Why shouldn't their vote count? I will eat this table.
But Montana has electoral votes.
No, they do. But I'm saying that if they were counted directly and running up the score in Montana made sense for Donald Trump, because he would get more votes in the overall election. He'd spend time there. Mm-hmm. Right now, the only people that like the system are if you're in a swing state, because you get all the attention in the world. And then your candidates become, you wind up getting vice presidential picks and everything else. And everyone's like, Pennsylvania, what's Pennsylvania doing? I want to tell you something. Today, and this is pretty crazy, today they're still counting California. Okay. I mean, imagine California was a swing state. I know this is a little off to our conversation, but it is
Could happen. Let's see what happens 10, 15 years from now.
Right, that's the point. That's exactly the point. But until then, it really doesn't count. Did anyone pay attention to what happened in New York when they were trying to figure out who's going to be the president?
Right.
We all knew the same.
But what's interesting is I think that you're talking about the implication on campaigning and what happens on the campaign trail and stuff like that, I don't really think that's that relevant to the structure of the Electoral College.
Who matters? Montana, urban Montana, your example, did not matter in this election.
Right, but in the modern world, right, in 2024, with the way the information technology age has kind of changed everything, internet, you got 100%. Your phone, your TV, and your computer, and your mailbox are kind of on your phone, on your hand because of the phone. That has changed the way information is processed, campaigns are ran. You know, Trump, for example, made great use of social media, not just this time, but in 2016. And I think that is sort of diminishing the need or desire to have those big rallies or in-person events.
I didn't even know. James, you've lost me. What point are you arguing now? The Electoral
College still matters because that person's vote is represented by those blocks that create a coalition that you win the White House.
I'm going to make this as simple as I possibly can. If you live in Tennessee, your vote doesn't count. No one cares because Tennessee is going to be a Donald Trump state, so it doesn't matter what the margin is there. New York doesn't count. We're not a swing state because the Electoral College is winner take all within those states.
Right.
So it doesn't, the whole system, and why did they have the Electoral College? Well, they had the Electoral College because back in the day when they were writing this document, they did not trust the American people to elect their president. They wanted people to make sure that the person that they chose was of the right character. So they created this body of wise men and men, frankly, and they said, you're going to be the Electoral College. The people will vote for you. You'll go to Washington to cast your vote. By the way, Donald Trump is not the president yet because the Electoral College hasn't met yet.
Right.
He's not the president-elect yet.
Yeah.
Okay? That's dopey. We're in 2024 here. The idea that we need someone in between.
Yeah, but see, I think you're making it out to be sort of a technicality and just a structural thing, and it's actually endemic to the representative republic that we have.
What does that mean?
If you don't have a regionally based structure to the election, right? If you don't have those smaller population centers represented specifically by the rules. Like, in other words, you can only qualify for these 2 electoral votes if you're voting within these regions here. Then it really just comes down to, what do the people of LA think? What do the people of Chicago think? What do the people of New York think? And
look at
those regional interests are the ones that drive the election.
James, open the newspaper. Your guy won.
Right, yeah.
He lost L.A. He lost New York. He lost Chicago.
I'm aware of that.
He lost Milwaukee.
I'm aware of that, but you're talking about potentially ranking the percentage win within L.A. or New York or Chicago. Or, you know, he lost 52% to 46% or whatever it may be.
You don't understand. You don't understand. The Electoral College right now divvies up a certain amount of votes for each state based on how many members of the House and members of the Senate.
It's a winner-take-all contest within that state.
And I'm saying,
except for Maine.
do away with that.
I understand what you're saying.
Every person gets a vote. So if you are in rural Tennessee, you have the same. Listen, let me finish my thought. Rural Tennessee, you have the exact same power as someone in New York City. Right now, you're not getting counted either one of them.
The people of Tennessee are actually effectively being. I understand what you're saying.
People of Tennessee,
you're effectively disenfranchising the smaller states and their regional interests.
There's no states
because
in
that's the structure. That's the reason you have the Electoral College.
No, it's not. The reason you have the Electoral College is to have the buffer between the people. Okay. Now, I'm saying make it
de facto. That's what results, but it's not the reason that you have it.
Okay. Can let me just see if we can get past our understanding here. Donald Trump wins by 1 vote.
Right.
Okay.
Right. In the Electoral College or the
we're putting away the popular wins by 1 vote.
Right.
Okay. Wins by 1 vote.
Yes.
Okay. Which state was the most influential state?
I would have to
There
know
would be
what
none.
the particular
None.
issues
You won
were.
by
Probably,
1. Every voter can look in the mirror and say,
probably the border states. You could probably pick all the different border states.
Okay, you are having a conceptual problem here. Either that or I'm having trouble. He won by 1 vote nationally in the whole country.
Right.
Pick a map with no lines on it.
Yes.
Who got the most votes? Winner take all.
Right.
1 person, 1 vote. He wins by 1 vote. James Flippin can say, I made it.
Right.
A guy in Missouri said, I made it.
But Anthony, that's like if somebody wins the Super Bowl and they won by 1 point, you'd say, it doesn't matter. They won. Well, I'd say, well, yeah, but the quarterback is the MVP. That's the reason it happened. Nope, doesn't matter. They got the 1 point, and that's all you need to know.
Are you still drunk from Thanksgiving? What are you even talking about? I am saying the Electoral College divides it up so that if you by states.
Yes.
When I am and I'm saying that if you win by 1 vote,
I understand.
Your state didn't matter. You don't know what state it came from.
Okay, that's your interpretation of it. Right.
There's no other interpretation. You won by 1 vote. Just listen to the scenario.
Okay, I am.
You won by 1 vote.
Yes.
Therefore, every single American that voted for Donald Trump, every corner of the world could say that they did it. Right now, if you win by 1 electoral vote, a particular state would have to say they did it. Okay? And I'm saying we want to be a true democracy or a truer democracy, then we should just have a winner take all. Why do you want a situation where the loser gets named a president?
Yeah. And I think that if you wanted a pure top to bottom democracy, then that's exactly what you would do.
Same system, same president. I don't know what you're doing.
But we are a republic of states, and those states send their representative to then vote, to your point, in the Electoral College for this particular executive, because it's a regional contest. It's these 50 mini contests, and those 50 mini contests added together decide who the chief executive is.
I know the Electoral College works, but functionally speaking, California is not counted.
Look,
right?
Well,
do we understand?
That's how the left interprets it.
No, that's how anyone in California, even the most conservative person in California, wants to be counted. Why is it the left? California's got more conservative votes than maybe any other state.
Allow me to amend. The people who oppose the Electoral College say that it means the individual votes don't matter, right? That any individual person's vote doesn't matter.
Their vote doesn't matter. Whether you're Tennessee is the example, the most conservative state in the union. Alaska. Idaho, conservative bedrock, red places don't matter in the election right now. That's unfair to them. That's the point. The system is a relic of a bygone era. We don't need to be protected from the voters.
Let me flip. Can I flip the debate on its head quickly?
You certainly can, but do it quickly.
I'll say it to you this way. Why even have states?
Why have states? Well,
yeah. Why not just have it one big America?
Because we have, as you previously said, governance is best when it's closest to the people.
There you go. So the top-down democracy that only says all these votes.
You understand the Electoral College only for the president, right, James?
Yeah.
Okay, and the president's the whole country. You got that, James?
But then you elect the senators for each state. You represent representatives for each state.
I said earlier, I'm not saying get rid of the House and the Senate. I'm putting that aside.
Yes.
The Electoral College is a national office that we don't elect nationally. But it makes no sense.
It ties the overarching chief executive election to these different regions. It takes it away from just being a popularity contest.
I know what it does. I'm saying it doesn't make any sense. You don't need to keep restating.
You don't like it.
You don't like it either.
I do. I love the Electoral College.
You're a libertarian. You want votes to count.
Okay, let me make that, if it's not clear at this point, I'm a big fan of the Electoral College. The Electoral College, for me, is the nice leftover turkey sandwich with the cranberry and the nice cut of bread, a crusty, nice bread, yeasty, maybe some mayo on it. That, to me, is the Electoral College.
God. You're such a Goyish cup. All right. So we have a couple more issues here. I don't want to get into one that's going to be too meaty because we had no pun intended because you know who's a turkey here? Elon Musk is a turkey.
Oh, wow. I love Elon Musk.
Why?
I'm a big Elon Musk
Because
guy.
He's rich. We worship wealth.
No, that's not it. I think there's plenty of people who are rich.
He's an illegal immigrant, you know.
Illegal, really?
Yeah, he came here under a student visa.
He overstayed his visa.
No, he didn't. He didn't show up for classes. He technically violated, and he snuck in from Canada when he had to come back in. He traveled out and snuck back in.
This is outrageous.
Yeah, he's going to get rounded.
We got to run this up the flagpole.
He's going to round him up in his electric vehicle. Look, I have a lot of admiration. I mean, I think he's a turkey, but I have admiration for the guy. He's smart at some things, dumb at others. I mean, he drove X into the ground, but he's pretty good at doing rocket ships. But by the way, not for nothing, Mr. Libertarian, I just did my podcast this weekend, the Middle Unplugged, about this. He couldn't launch that rocket into the air without your tax dollars supporting him. He couldn't do that car. He would not have. That car company would not have survived if we didn't have regulations saying you can trade carbon credits.
Yeah.
And it kept him afloat during the time when he himself said the car company was probably on the rocks.
Well, you know, look, I'm not that into Tesla. I'm not a Tesla investor. You know, I have a gasoline-powered car. I don't have anything against e-vehicles or hybrids. I think they're cool. But that's not really what my main focus is with Elon Musk. When it comes to Elon Musk, you alluded to it. You say he ran X into the ground. I say with no hyperbole whatsoever that Elon Musk helped save and maintain Western civilization by purchasing X.
A giant tech bro supported your guy. Now you guys love tech. You stop complaining about how tech is like a Democratic stalking horse?
I think that there's at least a fighting chance now when you have like a conservative social media site, right? Like you've got YouTube and Facebook and all these other ones that are left.
That's inside baseball. Everyone who listens to this show, all they listen to is 77 WABC Radio. And that's going to be the subject of a thankful leftover turkey, whatever we're doing here when we get back.
We're heating it up.
It's the left versus the right. It's a 77 WABC debate. 77 WABC. It's the left versus the right. In the right corner, it's James Flippin. In the left corner, it's Anthony Weiner. 77 WABC.
So welcome back to Left versus Right. Anthony Weiner on your left, James Flippin on your right. James, as you know, not only has been doing this show recently, but does the news breaks during the middle of the day, sometimes banters with our other hosts. You can get all of this as a podcast. So we're doing turkeys, things we're thankful for, and no surprise, a lot of things I think are turkeys you're thankful for. All right, this one's going to be a little controversial because it might get me fired.
Oh, boy, here we go.
You know who's a turkey? Just about every bloody host on 77 WABC. I mean, I like them all. They're very nice. Some of them I've even debated.
Personally, you don't have a problem with them. It's
personally, they're fine.
the content.
But these shows, oh my God. Every single, whatever spoon-fed right-wing story of the moment comes across the transom over and over and over and over again. The callers all call and say the same thing. It's a giant echo chamber. I don't know what they're going to talk about when Trump is in office because he's apparently the second coming of whatever. I want to tell you something. If it were not for this show, James, and the one the listeners just heard, hopefully, the middle, you would hear no one from the other side. And I'll tell you something. Here's a little something for our listeners to know. Those guys don't even want me coming on their show because they know I'm going to run all over them. So they don't even want me on their shows. That's a problem. We need more shows like this. This is where ideas go back and forth. And then I get on Facebook and whatever. Oh, Weiner's, why you even have Weiner on the air? He's the worst. These people just want the same thing spoon-fed to them. That's not good for America. These guys are turkeys around here.
Well, look, I am going to come to the defense of 77 WABC, and I'll do that in a second here, and I can explain. But I will say this. Having been a guy who, as far back as I can remember, let's say, I was the kid in my history class arguing with my teacher or something like that. I've always been willing to mix it up with people who are Democrats.
And sometimes you go on during the day and disagree with some of the hosts. You actually play that role.
Yeah, and you have to have that because I think that's what makes talk radio and really any kind of back and forth, interaction worthwhile is hearing some competing points of view. That being said, because I agree with you, I think you need more of that, and it's healthy to have that kind of disagreement. There's something very comforting about a good right-wing talk radio station. It's like a warm blanket. It's like a slice of apple pie. It's just, you deal with this stuff all the time, Anthony, whether it's the majority of things that you do see on social media, whether it's the majority of things you see in the so-called legacy mainstream, lamestream media, whether it's the big newspapers or the network TVs and all that kind of thing. So there's still some of that. Yes, it's an echo chamber, but it's our echo chamber, and it's opposite the prevailing echo chamber, which is predominantly left of center.
But why does any echo chamber good, man? I mean, by the way, I don't buy this. I've talked to you about this before. The most important radio station in the country is this one, and it's all right except for a couple hours that I do. The biggest, by far, cable company is Fox News, which is all right. They've been replicated by OAN. They've been replicated by Newsmax. This whole idea that's us against them, it's basically 50-50, the media right now, where the country is. I just don't understand why anyone likes that stuff. I would chew my arm off rather than go on MSNBC and do this because everyone says the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And what I don't understand, we do very well here, our show, and I'm very grateful for our listeners who tune in. But sometimes people are like, I don't want to hear what Weiner has to say. I'm not tuning into that. Why would anyone say, I don't want to hear what the other side has to say? What kind of a country have we become that we don't even want to hear what the other side has to say? I mean, one of the things I admire about you, I mean, you're one fry short of a Happy Meal. There's no doubt about that. But at least you don't mind engaging on issues, and you've had an evolution of issues. Most people are like that. Sometimes people say, oh, don't vote for him because he flip-flopped on an issue. Hey, I don't mind if a person changes a position on the issue so long as they wind up on my side, then I'm going to say I'm going to vote for him.
Yeah.
I don't know why people are so afraid of the other side. And I'll tell you something else. I make an excellent villain in this version of WWE. I'm the guy people love to hate.
No, you make a good point. And I think to your credit, while we're passing that out here, it is Thanksgiving. We have to have some familial and friend relations. You, unlike many people, would be willing to come in here and do a show. And I think the great thing about what John and Margot Katz-Matidis have done with this station over the last 3-4 years is embracing that willingness to say, that's okay that you might send that email or write that Facebook comment or whatever it may be. We're going to have former Governor Cuomo on. We're going to have Anthony Weiner hosting a show. We're going to let these other guests from the Democratic Party or more
Right.
left-leaning organizations get airtime on Katz and Cosby and stuff like that. And, of course, that goes with the territory, right? You know, John is a guy who is a New Yorker through and through and feels very strongly about expression of ideas and stuff like that, but it also makes for good content.
I think that it does. Look, one of the things that I think that I have been on the air, you know, sometimes John, who's the owner of the station, Margot, they're owners of the station, Chad, who's the guy, the boss that runs things, he's the pro on radio. One of the reasons this place has turned around, one, it's good radio. Well, for all I'm kidding around about the characters on the radio, they're very successful. The ratings have grown and everything. But I think that to some degree, voters, no matter what your stripe, and I don't think that this is 100% because I think some people do want the warm blanket, but I think that our democracy inches forward when we have some version of a mix-up of a salad of different things, not just white rice or white pasta, whatever it is. And John and Margot have said, listen, one of the reasons that we have Anthony Weiner on the air is, one, to make it clear that someone who believes what I believe is still welcome. They're still welcome in. But what I think that just about every show on the air around here could use more of me. I think that's pretty obvious. They could use more of me.
Good night, everybody.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely true.
So that's another tricky. Well, let's get a little more of a serious issue. I am a big fan of socialism. Not the socialism that many on the right say it is, but the socialism that many of the right think of. Social Security, Medicare, programs that take from people, one, Jeffrey says, of Social Security, takes from a working generation, gives it to retirees. Medicare collects taxes, and rather than give it to insurance companies, gives it to doctors and to nurses. Now, I know people say, oh, my God, socialized medicine, socialism. If that's what I'm grateful for that, because these are the most successful programs in our country. Some of them are expensive and they have to get noodled with every once in a while. But the number of people, seniors that are not poor because of Social Security, the number of people that are kept alive because of Medicare, I'm grateful and thankful when someone says, well, we have a socialist country. They don't mean it, but I'm glad that we have the programs that we do.
Anthony, I think that you and I remember after doing our first show, we had like an email thing back and forth. We were talking about Social Security. And when I think about some of the conversations I've had with people that I really respect and people who I think are very smart, people who are more left-leaning or actually maybe identify as Democrats, one of the most common sources of debate, contention, disagreement often is healthcare. So let's just stick on that one, right? Because there's a lot of people who say healthcare should be a universal right, and they allude to people who just can't get care because they don't have enough money, let's say, to pay for doctors and things like that. Anybody with a pulse, anybody with a soul, anybody with a conscience understands that side of it, I think, and can certainly see the argument for pooling of resources, socialized medicine, things like what Canada and Great Britain do and things like that. There is a downside, however, right? There's always, like Milton Friedman used to say, there is no free lunch. So there's always something that you're giving up to get the one. And the thing that is well established in the United States, and this is something that some on the right are probably going to pull their hair out to hear me talk about in any sort of fawning or positive way, is the pharma industry and the way that new treatments, new drugs, new procedures are developed for profit here in the United States because that's allowed and because it's a process. Research and development, finding a new drug, patent for 10 years, make a lot of money off of it, that kind of thing. Good and bad to that. But the innovative aspect of healthcare and pharma has taken a step back in places like France, for example, where you have socialized medicine, and it's pushed down that incentive to come up with new treatments. So I think that there's somewhere within this table here a compromise. I certainly don't know what it is, whether it's the political expediency of having that thing to talk about every 4 years or not. I don't know. But there is some kind of a middle ground there. I'm not sure I know what it is.
You know, this is really not terribly complicated. The question is not whether to provide health care or even what health care to provide. It's how we pay for it. If you're out on 3rd Avenue in Manhattan and you get hit by a bus, they're going to take you to the hospital. They're going to patch you together. They're going to try to save your life. If you have health insurance, well, the health insurance company is going to take a piece of the action and they're going to decide what the doctor gets and what the hospital gets and whatever it is. And if you work for someone that provides insurance, you probably get it. If you don't have insurance, if you're left to your own devices, you're still going to incur all that cost. The doctor's still going to put you together. You're still going to have a hospital bed. You're still going to get an ambulance that takes you. The only question is if we say, well, we're going to cover you, but we're not going to cover you. You've got a good employer. You've got a bad one. Everyone kind of fend for themselves. The mythology is, well, just because someone's not getting insurance doesn't mean they're not getting health care. This is just a matter of how we pay for it efficiently. So what does Medicare do? What does the VA do? What does the Department of Defense do? What do they do on Indian reservations? They all get together and they say, listen, we're not going to go to a private insurance company. We, the government, are going to make these decisions. We're not going to pay our CEOs a bunch of money. We're not going to advertise. We're not going to have overhead. We're going to take the money in and give it to doctors, give it to nurses, give it to ER people, give it to ambulance drivers. That, if you want to call that socialized medicine, you can, but all that is single-payer healthcare, saying that the more people that we have covered, the more ways that we can control costs, make sure quality is high, and make sure everyone gets covered. So if you hear someone out there saying, oh my God, socialized medicine, all we're talking about is the idea of how we pay for people as efficiently as possible. Today, the way we do it, if you are in an auto mechanic shop on one side of Queens Boulevard, you could have a great insurance plan. The guy on the other side says, I'm going to try to provide you a cheap one. We, the people, are the ones that are making it. We should take the employers out of it. Medicare, you ask any 65-year-old, they're thrilled to be on Medicare.
Yeah. No,
you ask a 60-year-old like me, who's starting to have health care needs, because I know you see an Adonis over here, but frankly, I have. That's the thing. And so when Republicans say, let the market decide, let me say one thing about that. The market doesn't decide that when you have a ruptured spleen, you can go negotiate and maybe get a liver instead.
Right.
Or you have a ruptured spleen and say, no, I understand they're going on sale in November.
Yeah.
I'm going to shop around. Healthcare is not a commodity. You need to have it when you need to have it.
Yeah, the one thing that is a little bit sticky with this is that you're not entirely correct to say that it's just a question of how do we pay for it. Because the other thing is, what about the quality of care and the availability of care? You hear about from people in Canada, let's just say, if they need a knee replacement surgery, they're going to wait a lot longer than you would wait here if you had the good plan, right? If you had a good plan. So the question is, do you have a right to pursue better care if you have the money to pay for it?
If you have a knee, did you ever hear Medicare beneficiaries complaining they had to wait for years for a knee? Nope. So we can do it for 65 and older. And by the way, every year they do a survey of Medicare.
So then what's the holdup in terms of, like, let's say, because that's been recommended, right?
Make it 64. Make it then 63.
For everybody. Why not everybody?
Exactly. But I'm saying if you don't want to shock the system or you're concerned about your buddies in the insurance industry, every year,
just to be clear, I don't have any buddies in the insurance industry.
But every year we add a couple of years to it. That would get us to a single payer system. Oh my God, we can't afford it. Listen, we're paying the money now, but you know who it's getting? Insurance companies. And I'll tell you one other thing about this. You ever walk into a hospital administrator's office? They've got all kinds of inboxes for the 6 or 7 big insurance companies in their area. Each of them has overhead. Each of them does advertising. Each of them has a CEO. Each of them has a COO. Each of them has a fancy logo on the boards at the UBS where the Islanders play. And I'm saying that all of that money should go into healthcare. And the thing about pharma, you're not wrong. We are the world's capital of pharmacology, of pharmaceuticals. I don't believe in taking the private sector out of it. Keep the incentives in there. I'm not saying don't get rich. I'm saying don't get obscenely rich. I'm saying don't get over, I'm saying
that's a difficult line to legislate.
It really isn't. We do it all the time. We say that revenue above a certain amount, we tax a certain amount. But or we're going to give you a patent for 99 years. We're not going to give it for 100 years.
But when you're talking about the incentivized risk and what percentage is too much to make of a profit versus too little to make, that gets to be subjective after a while. And you're also talking about raising investment capital, the stock market.
I know, but the system obviously works. The pharmaceutical industry is doing very, 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 very well.
It is.
Right? And by the way, we have a patent system that protects them. Right?
Right.
Okay? And all I'm saying is that we have in the United States all of the assets necessary to provide better health care and universal health care. And people are like, oh, no, I want to fight for the right for Oxford to make more money. That's their argument.
Right. I mean, again, that may well be some people's argument. I think the other people are saying that they're aware that, generally speaking, when you have programs that are applying to everybody and not just a select few and using, like you said, a single payer system, quality goes down. Availability generally will obviously increase, but the quality goes down. That's the trade-off.
It hasn't happened. We have more people who are of retirement age than any time in American history.
I think people that use the HHS and the health services in Canada.
You don't need to look at Canada and Britain. You don't need to make a boogie ban. We have a system of national health care here. It's called Medicare. It's called Medicaid. It's called an Indian Health Service. It's called the Veterans Administration. We have basically, what is it?
I don't know if we want to focus on the Veterans Health Administration.
I understand, but they're single-payer systems. We don't hire
is it
an insurance.
Working well?
Right now, when we now offer veterans an opportunity to leave or come back, and frankly, the first few years they left under TRICARE, and now they're all coming back. Look, this whole idea is so funny. There's been no, the line from Usual Suspects, the greatest thing that Kaiser Soze ever did was convince us that he existed. The greatest trick that the health insurance industry ever did is made regular consumers standing up for the healthcare industry. The health insurance companies are the worst, right? They don't do anything for us except take our money, take 30% off the top, and then pass along some of it to doctors who don't like dealing with them. Ask doctors if they prefer to deal with Medicare or Oxford, and they'll tell you. And all I'm saying is we don't need to look at Great Britain or any other place or Scandinavia to see that we have a system here. But you guys are, oh my God, socialism's creeping. Anyway, I'll give you the last word.
I would say that there's kernels of truth in everything that's said here. I think that there's probably aspects of the insurance industry that are wasteful, arguably maybe a little bit wrong in terms of the way people have to worry about that system and get their health taken care of through that process. Do they have a job? Do they not? There's also a lot of aspects of government and the way things are provided services-wise that are not efficient and don't provide a good quality product.
Well,
so you got to look at both sides.
We can take a look at that after the break. Anthony Weiner on the left, James Flippin on the right. We'll be right back.
It's the left versus the right. It's a 77 WABC debate. 77 WABC. It's the left versus the right. From Studio 77, it's a 77 WABC debate. 77 WABC.
Welcome back to Left versus Right. Anthony Weiner on your left and James Flippin on your right. We're doing the Thanksgiving leftovers edition here on Saturday. Hopefully you had a very meaningful Thanksgiving. So, James, the next one is yours. Take it away.
All right. So, Anthony, in terms of the stuff we're talking about, things we're grateful for and things that we kind of think are turkeys, okay? We're the holiday season. People are eating leftovers. They're trying to get home right now, fighting traffic, all that kind of stuff. But we got you covered. And I think that one of the things that we have to put firmly in the turkeys category is ABC's daytime talk show, The View. Now, it might surprise you why I'm actually going to put this on the category. Clearly, I'm not a big fan of their talking
Didn't Donald
points.
Trump recently come out for, or no, Piers Morgan had a thing in the Post, like, let's get rid of The View. But tell me more.
Did he say, let's get rid of The View?
More.
Okay, so to me, it's just one of these ongoing things that only exists because of the paradigm we kind of referred to earlier today, right? The left, the right, purple fighting, this one, oh, I'm on this side, you're on that side, oh, we're going to get upset about it. And who really watches or focuses on The View? I think it's people like you and I, people who work in punditry or politics.
But wait a minute, hold on. Explain to me. I don't think I've seen The View. Maybe even once, and I see clips of it all the time. Don't they have a conservative on there, but it's for liberals?
Sort of. I mean, technically speaking, yes. I think Anna
and the
Navarro.
market for the show is women who are at home during the day. Is that basically who they cater to?
It's daytime talk show, right? It's still, I mean, I don't know how many people watch it on demand. Probably not that many.
Is it all political, or do they do other issues also?
I believe they do other issues as well. I don't think it's all
I'm ready to
political.
defend it, but go ahead.
That being said, it is a lot of politics, and it's definitely the Whoopi Goldbergs, Joy Behars, Sonny Hustons of the world that are very firmly in the sort of culturally left, holier than thou. How dare you? How could you possibly? And you don't like them
because they have a different view than you do.
I don't like their show because I don't think it's that entertaining, and by and large, I feel like
it's turkey because there's too many liberal women on TV for your taste.
I just think that the show, it's almost not even necessarily that important what it is they talk about. Yes, for the sake of argument here, it's something outrageous that a bunch of people get angry about. on certain sides of the political
But it's
divide.
apparently influential. Remember when Kamala Harris went on that show? Was that the show that she went on and they asked her, is there anything you regret? And she blew the question.
That actually, yeah. Now I would probably counter that she only did about 5 interviews throughout the campaign season, so any number of those 5 could have a gaffe for her that would be notable on the campaign trail. But yeah, that being said, she did have that moment where they were like, "What would you do differently?" And she said, "I can't think of anything."
But it does kind of argue that they're still performing some valuable role as journalists or whatnot. Look, here's my thing. There's so much dreck on TV. There's so much dreck on cable. There's so much, like, Fox News has this show at night with this guy, Greg Gunfeld, that's supposed to be funny. And I think the number of clips that I have seen where he does a joke and there's just like crickets and they're all like trying so hard to be, there's a lot of crap on television.
I think late night TV just needs to go, man.
Well,
don't
I don't
you think
know.
That whole format with the sitting at the desk and
I suppose.
I mean, come on, Johnny Carson killed it, and then it was kind of
now.
stale.
Look, I was having this conversation earlier with some guys here at the station. My son Jordan has recently discovered South Park. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And he's too young for South Park, and I hate that he watches it, and I criticize it. But South Park,
so great, though.
But in the early 2000s, it was basically like a better version of The Daily Show. They were constantly doing very of-the-moment issues. Like Jordan asked me the other day, what was Operation Desert Storm? I'm like, all right, I'll explain to you in a minute. But I look, there is the problem we have right now is not that we have too much on. It's that we don't have enough quality. It's hard to find the quality within. Like, you can find wherever you want a silo show that you like. And I bet you The View has a lot of followers. And it is no skin off my nose that they're doing it. Same with Gutfeld. Same with morning, the Fox and Friends in the morning. It drives me bananas the few times I watch it because they get stuff wrong. But to be honest with you, if someone finds some nourishment in that, the problem we have is not so much what the shows are, it's the content of them have become, like we talked about earlier, have become like worse than cotton candy. Like, it's just no substance that you can really sink your teeth into. But if I ever went on the air and did 20 minutes of a real solid issue like Oliver does on HBO, most people wouldn't watch. So, you think it's something that's a turkey. I think it is something that is a leftover for sure, but it's no harm. It's basically like chicken soup.
Yeah, to me, I think it's just bizarre in the sense that I feel like, and maybe I'm crazy, you said that you think they have a lot of fans. I guess they must. I just don't think there's anybody that really watches. I think it's this whole outside pressure, like, oh my gosh, did you hear what they said on The View?
Yeah.
And then this other people says, yeah, well, I think that's right. They should say that on The View.
Listen,
no. It's never actually the show itself.
My view, I'm a capitalist. I believe that capitalism works, that if the show is getting advertising.
It must be.
And by the way, those shows are, except for the salaries of the people on set, very cheap to produce, very little production. They don't have, they got, basically their version of Eric Salas, making sure the cameras are on, and that's basically it.
Can't be as good as Eric Salas.
Yeah, exactly, because somehow he lights this place to make us look handsome. but I mean, I just think that if you want to pick and choose the things that are crap, the first thing I would check is, am I just saying people that I don't like or I don't agree with? The format, you're right. It's plenty stale. But this is what people want. I mean, I don't understand how some of these shows stand. Fox and Friends is a very successful program. Mm-hmm. It makes my hair hurt, but different strokes for different folks. Speaking about different strokes for different folks, some people are very animated, and I have no problem with it. There's a pumpkin obsession. Pumpkin spice, pumpkin latte, pumpkin burgers, pumpkin this.
Are you a fan of the pumpkin flavoring?
I could give a rat's ass what someone else likes. But people are obsessed with it. Are you one of these people like, oh my God, I hate pumpkin latte, whatever the hell heck it is?
Okay, so I feel as though this is an interesting little one to get into because it is very, very tied to your own personal tastes and opinion. I don't even know if you can actually argue these points. I just am not crazy about pumpkin flavoring, like pumpkin pie. I don't think it's that great. Now, I think that that's sacrilege to some people around this time of year because they say you got to have pumpkin pie.
Well, pumpkin pie is a little different because it's a delivery system for whipped cream.
Oh,
it has
that
nothing
makes
to
sense
do.
To me. That makes sense to me.
It has, I always thought the perfect pumpkin pie is a crust that's 3 times as big.
Okay.
Pumpkin that's about half the size.
All right.
And then just whipped cream, like 4 inches of whipped cream. That's
okay.
Now, pecan pie, I can't figure out. I don't know why people
You don't like
that.
pecan pie?
I don't like crunchy pies.
But it's really more chewy than crunchy.
Okay, same thing. I don't like it. I don't know. The
texture is
But here's the thing. Here's where I will agree with you, though. The force feeding of us of pumpkin everything at this time of year is a little over the top.
It is.
I mean,
but again, you said you're a capitalist. You know, if they seem to sell.
Well, it's really hard to figure out if it is selling in this case or just it's a branding opportunity for the month of October and November that they just lean into every year. You know, I don't
like what corporations do in every June.
But for what?
Gay rights or whatever, gay pride.
You've got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me.
It's a branding strategy for them.
Okay, and I suppose Black History Month is also.
It's a branding strategy for corporate America as well.
For the love of God. For the love of God. I mean, that just because American Express says in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, we're going to do A, B, or C. Why is it offensive to you?
No, I'm not saying it's offensive. I'm just saying it's bemusing. It's like, oh, here's another chance to sell some products, but we're looking really good while doing it.
We're going to identify with a product or a cause. We do that around here all the time.
We do. Yes,
products identify with good causes.
Well, we're always very, we're never disingenuous here.
You're just a self-hating Hispanic lesbian. Okay. Let's see. What other issues do we have on here? We're running a little low because, frankly, we agree on so many things. All right, I have one for you. I believe, and this is something that this season I am particularly off of. I am tired of people celebrating how many people came out to vote this year.
Okay.
These idiots got it wrong. Why am I like, oh my God, I'm so glad when I see undecideds at 7% 3 weeks before the election, I'm like, these people do not deserve the right to vote.
Right.
If they are paying such casual attention that they can't tell the difference between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, and they can't make up their mind, they should just stay home. You know what we should do? We should tell those people that the election's on Wednesday. They can show up whenever they want. But honestly, I'm only half kidding here. When we say, oh my God, we've got to do things to make sure more people can vote, more people can vote, more people. No, I want the right number of people to vote, meaning the people that take the time to listen to programs like this and radio stations like ours, people that form opinions about issues, people that think it through. I don't want some casual dude like, oh my God, I forgot I have to vote. Who should I vote for? I don't think that adds to our democracy.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of fascinating because I remember talking with our news director, Noam Laden, throughout the election season, and we'd see these polls and they'd say undecided, this, that, the other. And I'd say, there is no such thing as undecided.
Apparently there are,
actually going to get off the couch and vote. In the land of polling, there is.
No,
is that reality?
No, we do, because we can see who votes, and we know that there are a lot of people that only vote every 4 years, and they only vote for president, don't vote down ticket.
Right,
they come out to vote for the presidency.
But they knew with the way that they wanted to vote. I mean, again, this polling.
I don't know. Look, I saw a whole lot of research that showed that there are a lot of people that when you ask them where they get their political news is not cable, is not radio, is not newspapers, it's nowhere. They literally get no political news.
What do you think those, that's just like from their neighbor or
they don't
whatever?
Get any political news. They just don't. They're not paying that attention. And so they are the people that I don't care. I don't know. And I don't care.
I'm asking you to speculate on something that's impossible. How do you think they decide then? How do you think they make their mind
That's exactly my point. These are the most casual voters. These are voters who vote maybe socially. They vote every once in a while.
Well, but that's a reason to vote, isn't it?
No, but that's the argument I'm making. I mean, these casual voters that are not going to take this seriously enough to know that they're going to vote until the day of because they saw a TV commercial or their neighbor says, come on out and vote for Donald Trump.
Right.
I don't believe our democracy is improved. And by the way, if all those people stayed home, President Kamala Harris, because most of them voted for your Yahoo.
So you're saying that there's nobody in, let's say, and I don't know why I'm picking this in particular, Manhattan, Los Angeles, Chicago, who said, Donald Trump is an evil Nazi akin to Hitler.
No,
I'm going to go vote for Kamala.
Those are well-educated voters. Those are people that study the issue.
I see. Now it all makes sense.
No, I just really think, when people say, okay, this initiative didn't work because fewer people voted. Well, I'll give you another example. Many fewer people voted for Kamala Harris here in New York than did 4 years ago for Joe Biden. Okay? And people are, oh my God, what is that all about? We're so concerned about that. Hey, if you stay home, fine. That just means my vote counts more. Right? We shouldn't have to persuade you to come out and vote. If you don't believe that the voting is important enough, all these things, don't forget to vote, don't forget to vote. Hey, you knucklehead, if you need to be reminded by someone's sticker to go out and vote, then that's on you. It's not on society.
Okay, there's two things I want to mention to you. First of all, this is a little bit like, I guess, interesting or controversial or intriguing or whatever, but would you actually want there to be some sort of parameters? Like you have to pass a quiz.
No.
You have to be a property owner.
Not a bad idea. Not a property owner. That's your team that wants that. No, that's not. Look, first things first. If you show up and you are unfamiliar with the idea that Donald Trump says he wants to put a national sales tax in the form of tariffs, you're out. You got to at least know that's what you're signing up for.
Can you write a dissertation explaining how a tariff is a national sales tax?
I'll give you a better example.
That one.
I'll give you an example. You walk up to the polling booth. Before you get to vote, someone has to ask you, who are you rooting for? Russia or Ukraine? And if they say,
if
they say Ukraine, come on in.
I can't vote.
Okay.
Can I just add something?
Yeah.
That when I went to vote on election day, I went home and my husband was going later in the day or had already gone or whatever. And he said, "Oh, you didn't get I voted sticker." I said, I didn't want it. He's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I don't want to remind people around here to go vote."
That's not a bad idea. No, actually, that's a real thing.
In Essex County, New Jersey, I don't need to advertise.
That is a real thing in campaigns. You know, one of the things that very often candidates will do is not do a heavy pull in areas they're not going to do very well in. They're not interested in knocking on doors and maybe waking up opposite. But that's tactics. Mm-hmm. I think here's my general takeaway, is that this is a civic responsibility. Okay, you should do it. We should give kids off from school. They can go with their parents. We should make it as easy as possible. I get that. We shouldn't put obstacles in their way. I get all of those things to make it as easy as possible for anyone who legally has a right to vote to vote. But at a certain point, it's on the voter. It's to get off your patootie, learn about the issues, however you choose to do it, and then go out and vote. And when people say, "Oh my God, it's a big failing of our country because someone didn't," there's never been a time in my lifetime where the two parties and the two candidates were further apart than they were this year, right? So no one could say, "Oh, it's all the same. Nothing really matters," whatever it is. So when we are like, let's figure out how we get more people to vote, I'm like, let's figure out how we get the right people to vote, the people that are really informed on the issues, like our listeners. See.
Well, I see what you did there. And I will just say that I think what you're referring to is what the late, great Rush Limbaugh called low information voters.
Exactly.
He wasn't a big fan. You're not either. So you got a lot in common with Rush.
Well, let me just say one thing I am eternally grateful for is you being an excellent co-host and Dominic before you and Curtis for training us both on how to do this. That he did a great job. And John, who filled in for a while, and Roger Stone, and to Eric and Ricky and the guys that put this up on the air. You know, one of the things, I was not a radio guy from my earliest days like you were. You came up in the business. I'm learning it now. I still am learning it, but I'm very impressed by the way things go down here. We're very lucky to be working here. Have this every week we get this microphone. We say to each other, well, we don't know if we'll be back, but I want to thank you for being an amazing co-host.
Thanks for having me, man. It's been fun these few weeks and very grateful, very thankful for the chance to do it. And I hope we get more chances in 2025.
Now, we'll probably hear from the listeners, why is that guy Weiner even on the air? Or we'll say, why don't you punch him in the nose more? Or whatever it is. I mean, it's so much better this way because whenever Dominic and I did it, we had to take a break in the middle to go to the ER to get patched up.
I know, yeah. It was seriously. We had to get you into separate corners for a while.
But I really do appreciate the opportunity. And to all of our listeners who have stuck with us through all the different hosts and everything else, the ratings are very good. People seem to really be enjoying it. They give us lots of mail, lots of things to think about. I really want to thank all of you, the listeners, and in the case of YouTube, the viewers to our program. This has been a great opportunity, and hopefully on this Thanksgiving weekend, it is meaningful for you and hopefully for your families, and you get an opportunity to express all the gratitude to things you're thankful for, including on behalf of James and me, all of those who serve our nation in uniform, all of those first responders, and all of their families. And with that, let's hand it off to the inimitable, the great Vinny Badugno.